without a shadow of a doubt that you're created on purpose for a purpose. Mindset and money revolution. You have to have a mindset revolution to experience a money revolution. That's when you experience a true wealth revolution.
My name is Chad Free. Welcome to the Wealth Revolution Podcast.
Welcome back to the Wealth Revolution Podcast. My name is Chad Free, and I am a wealth strategist that believes in true wealth. True wealth is an abundance of everything that you value. And man, I got a guest today. I got the man with the plan, Mr. Weston Willis today. And we're going to talk a little faith. We're going to talk a little football.
Yep.
And as you know, we're raw and real. We're not all prim and proper up in here, right? We just talk real.
Yep.
And some of you may know this, some of you may not, but I also have a calling on my life that not just for a wealth revolution, but next generation revolution that really teaches people, the younger generation. A lot of people say, man, they're just entitled, they're spoiled. You know what? I think that they are created for these times.
Yeah.
And they need to learn bounce back. They need to learn grit. They need to learn hustle, mental toughness. And I'm just going to call this, let's call this the Next Generation Revolution edition of this podcast. And honestly, I can't think of somebody better to be a guest that embodies all of those things. Because not only, we're going to get into your story, are you an amazing athlete, but off the field, you are truly someone that people don't forget when they meet you.
Well, that's just, I can't do that without, first of all, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. But that's the main reason I am the man I am today is because, when I was lost, I found him, and it's just been only uphill from there. Yes, I will have my down times, which we'll get into. But, that's the main reason of who I am and the heart I have is because of the love that I have from the higher power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to talk about, like I mentioned, faith in football. And first of all, let's just come out and say it. I mean, my boy was a quarterback, right?
All right.
And
give me some dots. Come on now.
Yeah, hey, that was like, you was the target, man, right?
He was the QB. Couldn't do it without him.
And can we just slide this in here? I mean, y'all made one connection, I think 94 yards, second longest.
It was a rollout left, and he threw it up. I mean, it dropped right in the bucket, right on the sideline. It was a not a lot of quarterbacks can do that, which is him being that talented. And I'm gonna brag on him, but his son, him being that talented at a young age, he's gonna be way better than I am. So make sure y'all stay in touch with him and keep up with his progress as well.
Well, it takes teamwork. It really does. And he can't be who he is without having the right team around him. And I know you feel the same way. But that was the second longest at school history.
Yes, it was. Yes,
which is huge. Wow. Well, cool deal. Well, let's start this thing off, and let's talk about who is Weston Willis from a little boy. We'll get up to some meat, right? Meat and potatoes. But when I first met you, you was on the field. Well, it was baseball, football,
basketball.
You was on the basketball court too.
I might could pick up a club and swing it here and there, but I had to be doing something, and I was just being on the field.
Right. And your dad, which is a good friend of mine too, he was a coach. He was your coach a lot along the way.
Yeah.
And he's a fine gentleman. I think the world of him. And he gave me some opportunities as the junior Rams director for a couple of years. That was good. But so let's talk about this. So you're playing all these sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then tell me about how you started dwindling down to football. How did we get to football?
Yeah, so it was crazy because in my opinion, I was the most talented at baseball. I always wanted to be on the diamond. It's always what I wanted to do. And then I feel like I wasn't the best at football. But, one day I was at baseball practice. It was actually middle school, 7th grade year. Quarantine was about to hit for COVID. And so I went out to practice and I was like, man, I don't have the drive for this. Like, the practices were long, a little bit, more boring. And I want to be that high tempoed, high paced guy. I always want to be doing something because that's just the person I am. And so I told my dad when I got home, I was like, Dad, I think I want to drop baseball and basketball, and I want to put it all towards football. I want to train because that's something I want to do. It's a high-paced physical game. You never stop. You're always going. And so that's what I want to do, and that's what I think will suit me because so after practice that one day, I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna put this towards football. So after that day, it was on for football until I don't know when that's going to end. Hopefully never.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this question because we have parents that watch this too. All right. Don't want to put you on the spot.
Not
but
good.
How did mom and dad react to that decision when you said, hey, I want to go all in on football, which means I got to leave this behind? What was their reaction?
Yeah, well, God blessed me with two very amazing parents. I couldn't ask for better. My dad, he sat down and talked to me. He said, what made you think that? And I was like, I told him how I truly felt. And like I just said, and he was like, son, I will do anything and everything for you just to see you live out your dream.
Wow.
And so most kids don't have that. And that just shows truly how grateful I need to be for my dad and the role he's played in my life. And so I'm very grateful for that. And my mom's just, she's always going to be my number one supporter. She wants to come to every practice. She wants to just be there to watch me and watch her son grow up. And, like I said, I cannot be any more grateful for, those people that have just helped me all the way through. And I can't count out my sister. She's been there for me a lot. So
100%.
Yeah.
So, what I heard you say is, some parents not meaning to do this, they have well intentions, but they didn't listen to understand. Right. Or they don't listen to understand. Your dad, he wanted to hear where did this come from? Tell me about it. So he was listening to understand. He didn't just say, no, you can't do that. You're too good at baseball. You're not going to give that up. Blah, 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 blah. And unfortunately, a lot of parents do that and they don't mean no harm, but hey, you've got a gift and you got to do this.
Just kind of want it their way.
That's right. Because of what they see in their kid, but they're not listening to where did this come from?
Yeah.
And the fact that your dad listened to that and then offered that support, whatever you want, I want to be here to support you in living out your dream. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. So I actually want to touch on that because, and I'm a 17-year-old kid, but I do have advice for parents just because I take some of how mine parented. And like I said, my parents were perfect. And yeah, I'm gonna brag on them, but you've got to see how your kid truly feels in his heart. You can't have your kid under your wing the whole time, or whether that's he wanting to go off and do something else, and you still got to be a parent towards him and guide him in the right path in a godly manner. But you can't have him under your wing and just be in control of your kid. You got to let him go live life and figure out some things on his own, and most importantly, to find his heart, and wherever his heart is guiding to, you got to be there as his or her number one supporter, and to be there for your kid. So, and I know you do a very good job at that.
Well, I touch on that because I had the temptation to do that with Clayton. We had these plans that he was going to play ball at the next level. And he was great. He had some seasons where he didn't get much playing time. And then his senior year, we talked him into, we didn't make him, and he'll tell you we didn't make him or force him, but we're like, we just don't want you to regret not playing your senior year. Yeah. And then he went out there and just all region, and he's the number one starter, MVP pitcher, and just really did amazing. But he started going through this season where his heart wasn't in it. It was more like a chore. And so I was very tempted because guess what? Mom and I, we kind of made plans. That's what's going to take him to college.
Right.
So there was a temptation to say, no, we're not giving up now. And it's not that he was giving up. It was that things had changed. And we go through these seasons. And like you said, I love that. You got to follow your heart. Just
100%.
because he had that skill and the knowledge of the game,
Yeah.
that didn't mean that his heart was still in it.
Yep.
So, all right, we're in football now, and we're focusing on football. Let's talk about your sophomore year, man.
Ooh, what a year that was.
Yeah. So you had a pretty big setback,
For sure.
but I want to talk about that because that setback ended up being a setup
For sure.
for your success. So let take us through that time and what happened, and let's hear you out. Let's
Yeah, so
see what it's about.
I'm gonna touch on this topic a good bit, because this is the start of my testimony, and that's, first of all, football is good. It's gonna end one day. Faith will never end. It will last you forever. It'll last you to eternity. My start of my testimony is, I grew up in, being a believer. I was baptized when I was 7 years old. I didn't understand the truly love of Jesus in my life. So sophomore year, I was a floater. I played first 2 games on JV. Third game went up to a highly populated varsity game, and it was a really good game. Ended up coming down. Varsity had a bye week, didn't play that week, so I went down to JV, got some more reps, game time. Well, third quarter comes about. It's about second down and 8. I catch a screen pass, and next thing you know, I get chopped from underneath, and next thing you know, I'm on the ground screaming. I just have a huge adrenaline rush, and I'm like, what just happened? I don't know what's going on, and so I end up, grabbing my coaches and hobbling off the field, and the trainer says you tore your ACL and MCL, and I said, I don't think so. I think I've done something more extreme, and so finally get home after a miserable car ride. I mean, miserable, going over bumps, and it's just hitting my leg. And so I get home. I've got to take all my football gear off because I haven't been home yet. Well, next thing you know, after a long, miserable night, I go into the doctor the next morning. I'm in the doctor's office, and I hear in the lobby area, I said, we got a 14-year-old with a gruesome leg injury. We're going to have to escort him to surgery immediately. So I'm confused on what happened. And so I'm getting escorted to surgery. Next thing you know, I got surgery the next morning at 6 a.m. Comes to find out, I broke my femur, my tibia, and my fibula. Slept the whole night with it, and it was very painful. But it was all just the start of my testimony. And that testimony, I'm like, I've got to run to something that'll I can fully put my life to, and to heal some of my wounds. And that turns out is I picked up a Bible. I started reading a little bit. My sister was there to give me positive note cards every day. I'm sitting on the couch with a broken leg. I'm just watching my football games on Friday night, and I'm like, man, I want to be there. That's like my happy place. Like, what's going on? Like, why is this happening? And the reason I find out why was 2 years later. And as a Christian, you have to be patient. You can't find a lot of people that might have been Christians before might flip their religion because they weren't getting answers instantly. You're always on God's timing. There's never been, God has never messed up. God has, fully devoted his time for it to be perfect. And so as I'm sitting on this couch and I have a full wave of support on me that I didn't know I had, it was just the start of my testimony. And that's the biggest thing that's ever happened to me. So, that's when I started fully trying to trust in the Lord and why this is happening. And we'll get into later of, the season I started having and the comeback that I had. So yeah, that's kind of where I was on the injury part of it.
So let's just be honest. I mean, were you scared? Were you scared, or were you just kind of bummed? Like, man, did you ever? Were you ever scared about getting back, not being able to play football again, or were you just bummed that, okay, this is a big setback, this is going to be a long recovery? Did you fear at all?
I'll be honest. Before I met Christ, I feared. I did. I was like, this has a chance for me not to play football again. This has a chance for me to this be a year and a half recovery. So I feared that I wasn't going to be able to get back and do the stuff that I love and do the thing that I love, and that's just to be on a field playing football. So that's what I feared. But when I started picking up and reading the Bible and understanding what the message is that, Paul writes in some of the books in the New Testament, I started to realize that God's perfect and you're on his timing. So devote your life to prayer and to put that, and you'll figure out the why when God wants. That could be the next day, that could be 10 years, that could be 30 years down the road. It's just all on God's timing. So I would say I feared in the first place, but then once I realized that the higher power was in control of me, that's when I was like, he's on my side. The only thing I need to fear is him.
That's right. That's right. I love it. And so, a lot of people, to have that kind of injury, one of my mentors, Tim Story, says, when you have a setback, most people end up sitting in the setback. And if you sit in the setback, you will end up settling in the setback.
Yeah.
And then when you settle in the setback, you eventually are cemented in the setback. And listen, that's how learned behavior and that's how generational curses actually happen.
Yep.
Because you sit in the setback, but you made a decision, number one, that you can't do this alone, but you know who can.
Right.
And that he is the one that holds the future.
Yeah.
And so you put all of that trust in him, and you just focused on, how can I be who you want me to be?
Right.
And that he was going to see that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about right there. Yep. A lot of people, see, that's when you surrendered. Yep. I want to talk about surrender real quick, because people have this, I don't know if it's just church give you this impression that if I surrender, God's going to send me packing across the world and put me in some kind of third world country. Well, guess what? If that's what he calls you to do, then that's where you're supposed to be. Right. And you will not be more happier, more blessed, more abundant. But a lot of people, in my opinion, they don't want to let go because they're scared of what's going to happen.
Right.
And truly, Proverbs 19:21 says that man has many plans, but God's purpose will prevail. Why are you going to fight that battle?
Yep. And it also says in the book of Job, the whole book of Job is how Job lost everything. He stayed truly faithful to God, and this all ties back into the why. Job stayed faithful when he lost everything. Job stayed faithful to what he had and what God had in store for him. In the relationship with God, and he ended up staying faithful to what Jesus had planned for him. And that was the best thing that ever happened to him. So I just want to touch on that in the book of Job.
100%. 100%. So, all right, you made the decision that you're going to, I'm going to assume here that you're going to work hard. Mm-hmm. And you probably had the mindset, if God don't want me to play, then he'll close the door. But I feel like I'm grabbing I can do all things through Christ, right? Let's just cut
Philippians
to the chase.
4:13.
Yeah. So I'm gonna make a run of this. I'm gonna get back on the field. Tell me, because I'm gonna tell you right now, outside looking in, you had one of the most speediest recoveries.
Very.
From what kind of injury you had.
Yep.
I mean, y'all look up, Google femur, Google what is it, the tibula and metaphysesis and all. Look. Go back and listen to what happened to his leg. I mean, the thing was about half falling off, right?
It was almost there. It was almost there for sure.
But he had a recovery like none other. And so tell us about that.
Yeah, so I mean, 2 days later, like I said, the screws got put in, screwed my femur back together, got put in the big immobilizer where I couldn't move my leg for 6 weeks, non-weight bearing for 8 weeks. Well, I didn't know I was going to be on the football field 7 months after my injury. Like it was very crazy. I just, I overloaded PT. I wanted to get back. Yeah, when I got back, I was a little limp, just the fear of it happening again. But I did not ease myself back into it. I wanted to be right back into where I left off. And so, I think not easing into it, just going straight into it, which probably parents don't want to give their kid this advice, but I was like, I don't care. I'm going back into what I love. I'm going all out. So I went all out. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I got back so quick, was because now maybe I might have, symptoms later on in life that I shouldn't have done, but it was worth it because I got back and was playing the sport that I loved quickly.
Yeah. And so we got to give our guy a shout out. I know Walt.
Yeah.
Walt was a part of that upper
100%.
echelon. Man, he is just a wonderful, wonderful
Very.
guy. Walt, we love you, big guy.
Yeah.
The parents love you.
I love you.
Yeah, man, you're family. So quick shout out to you. But he's like family. He probably took you under his wing and just his training pushed you. I mean, he's smart enough not to push you past the boundaries,
Right.
but he also was smart enough to move you right along. And I'm sure you had other people that helped you with your recovery.
Walt was a main one. We went out training because I thought I was back. I'm still not fully 100% on my right leg. I'm still, maybe 80% on my strength. And so I'm going out there running for training, one of my first training sessions back, and I ran a post route. And at the top of my route, I was running out of the break. Maybe I was just running, basically. And Walt, he goes, go sit down. Go sit down. I'm like, what? He goes, you over here limping and crap? You ain't back yet. And he was saving me because he knew how bad I wanted to be back on the field, but he knew it was a tad bit too early. He gave it about 2 more weeks of more PT, and then I was back on the field, and I ran the same route, and he was like, see, the thing that you were, the place that you were 2 weeks ago, you are by far, you had 2 weeks of really good PT, and now you're back to where, you're back to where you can start running and doing the things that you want on that. And so it was a good, because he knows me training with him so long, he knew my body and how it worked and how it fluctuated, but he knew just what he was doing and the right timing to put me on. So yeah, that was good by him.
I've heard him say that before, just having that instant success, right? That momentarily to risk or gamble. Yeah. It's like the microwave deal. We want it right now, right? Mm-hmm. But it's more like the crock pot blessing. You know what I mean? There's a whole lot of goodness in that crock pot, but we got to wait. We got to do it right? Mm-hmm. Slow and go. So, all right, man. So you back at it.
Yep.
You're back at it. We have your junior year. And really didn't find your spot, right?
Yeah, it was
junior year.
It was just things weren't going. We couldn't really figure out what we had and the personnel we had, and it was we had to work with what we had basically. So
right. So utility guy.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and let's fast forward to this year.
Yeah, it was a pretty good season.
Let's talk about the senior year. Now, let me get my glasses on because I marked these down earlier. All region, all state, about 9 offers, 181-yard game, second large. Did I mention the second largest touchdown?
And make sure you mention Jackson's
in Hillcrest history. That was a great. And you got offensive MVP,
I did,
right?
Sir.
So I know how you are. But you're on my show, and I got the microphone, sort of. I'm going to brag on you. You are humble, you are hungry, and you are coachable. And I truly believe those 3 things and your attitude gave you this kind of success. I mean, the numbers that you put up.
Yep.
And I'm almost speechless because this was a testimony.
Yep.
This was the setback for the comeback. This was because of you putting him first in your life, he elevated you, and now you give him all the glory.
Yep. That's just how it works. I found out my why. I'm like, I would have much rather, I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Let's put it that way. This is how I wanted it.
Exactly. So you had an amazing senior year. I mean, there's too many things. I just did, I just named a few of them, but now you're going next level and you're playing at Newberry, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you'll be at Newberry, continuing to live your dream.
Yep.
And truly, truly, truly pointing people to Jesus.
Yes, sir. That is the calling.
Yeah. And I don't shy away from that, and I think that's amazing. And I truly think that's why that's where your confidence comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing you're not, it's not like it's all about me. It's all about Weston. It ain't that, but who's in control.
Right.
And he literally he took your ordinary and put extraordinary, made it extraordinary. Right. He
Mm-hmm.
took your natural and he put his super on it.
Mm-hmm.
And those are things that you can't take credit for.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I'll speak on it because of how that went for my commitment. So, man, I was in complete battle between two schools of, it's a majority about a football standpoint, but it's also the most majority is where can I lead myself? Where can I lead others? Excuse me. Where can I lead others into finding the true eternity and the true love? Because football is going to end one day. Like I said earlier in this, the football is going to end one day, but Christ will never. I sat down after my official visit on Thursday and Friday with North Greenville. I went to Newberry on Saturday and Sunday. I took in what I could. I sat down, Coach Knight, I might send this to you. I sat down with the head coach at Newberry on Sunday morning, and I specifically told him, I said, I would love to go to NGU because I feel like I can grow my faith more and easier. I said, but Coach Knight, I'm a man of challenges. And I said, I prayed last night for forever. God is calling me to a challenge to lead Christ throughout the Newberry football team. That is the challenge that I'm going to accept. Wow. And so I don't want to go for myself and to lead myself for my faith at NGU, but I want to accept the challenge of going and spreading the love that Jesus has for us on earth and to live a fulfilled, abundant life on earth throughout football. And that is a way I can spread it. So, yeah, I'm going for football, which is a blessing, but I'm also going for a bigger reason to, work with some guys and to create ministry throughout the football team and to fulfill my calling. And I feel like that's what I'm being called to with a lot of prayer, deep prayer. And so I also can't be more grateful for that as well.
Well, look, I can't see mom and dad and sister right now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm calling them out, but I'm sure they've got some tears in their eyes because they couldn't be more proud of you, man. I know as a parent, just seeing that in our kids, you sometimes we question ourselves. Did we do right? Did we parent the way we should have? Did we do the best we can? You know what? We're not perfect, but I'm going to tell you right now, hearing you say that, I'm sure your parents and sister are so proud. And I don't know, man. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about.
Your parent relationship with your kids will never be perfect. You're gonna have to argue. You're gonna have disagreements and miscommunication. That's gonna happen. But it's all about, as a parent, leading your kid and guiding them in a Christ manner to be able to grow as a family and grow your bond together. So me and my dad, me and my mom, we have not so many, but we have our miscommunication and our miscues about, well, this is what's happening, and I think some way, and she thinks a certain way, or he thinks a certain way, and it's all about, swallowing your ego and coming together and saying, you know what, I'm wrong, and you're right, and I need to be able to have that maturity and to say that my dad was right, which in the end he really was. So I can't thank them enough.
Absolutely. Well, as we wrap up, I want you to just feel free to leave our audience, whoever's listening to this, watching this, just whatever's on your heart,
Mm-hmm.
whoever you want to lead it, leave a message to or with or whatever. Now's your time to do that. It might be somebody that's going through some adversity. If you want to give them encouragement, whatever's on your heart, I'm going to let you talk and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, man. So I want to share a little bit more about the faith aspect of life, because I can talk about football, I can talk X's and O's, but I have more joy talking about faith, and I want more people to hear about faith than football. So me being saved was a very crazy time, because I did not realize the truth that life can bring and the escape Jesus can bring. And so with all this, partying and doing the wrong things, and the non-guilty sinful nature I was in, and it's just, that's what my heart desired. And I was like, you know what? God did this all for a reason. He all had a plan for me, and I need to stay true to his plan. I need to have my truth within me. Like I said, swallow my ego and surrender everything to him. Surrender my life to him. And like it says, Job 22:21, submit your life to God, you will find peace. So, once I started picking up the Bible and reading scripture and realizing the whole reason behind how this earth created, why it was created, it's so good and it's so pleasurable. And so everybody, you fight adversity. That's a main component in life that you're going to have. My adversity and my main point was me breaking my leg, me being down bad at my lowest, just wanting anything. I didn't have any desire for anything until, my family just started to, and the support that I had, I was just like, there's got to be a higher power, and that higher power is Jesus. And so once I, started fully devoting my life and taking it serious, 2024, I started January 1st, and I said, I'm going to read the whole Bible. And so I read from Genesis all the way to Revelation, and it hasn't stopped. It's just, that's what I'm on fire for. That's what I want to spread in the world. And I get a lot of questions about, how do you know God is real? And I said, first of all, the nature around us. You can't create a sunset so perfect. You can't create all these trees and perfect skylines and mountaintops. That doesn't come from planets crashing together, of evolution. That just doesn't, the way the body works. There's no possible way everything's in a line. What's that quote you said? You got to be aligned in your assignment.
Yeah, when you are focus on your alignment, then your assignment becomes very clear.
Yeah, I like that. And I just wanted to go off that. So you're aligned with God. You figure out your calling, which I did. And there's no way, once you figure out your calling, once you figure out that there's a higher power, there's no way you can turn back if you're fully devoted through Christ. A lot of people say they might flip their religion. Well, you never committed to Christ in the first place if you truly wanted to flip. So yeah, once I started reading and started to feel the Holy Spirit come upon me when I'm worshiping, whether I get chills, like I'm like, I know my God's real. Just the way it's changed me through witnessing to people, and yeah, man, I want to end it off with my favorite verse in the Bible, and that's Galatians 2:20, and it says, For my old self has died, for it is not I who live, but that Christ lives in me. And that is just so pure, and you can't get any better than that. That's
awesome.
That's
awesome,
just the
awesome.
way I want to wrap it up. And so,
cool deal.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys. Well, listen, if you watch this and you got something out of it, be sure to share it, like our channel, and maybe you know somebody that is struggling. Maybe you know somebody that could hear this message, and and get a lot out of it. Some people just need some encouragement, and I think his story is amazing. I love that he is willing to share his story, and God took what seemed like a mess and literally made a miracle out of it. And so, anyway, so guys, Weston, thank you, man, for being on.
Having me, man.
I appreciate you. I love you. I love your family. And so that's it. Wealth Revolution podcast. Make sure you share this. Somebody probably needs to hear it. You were created on purpose for a purpose. God bless you.